Hello, champions. Monday with a Mad Genius. Back at it again. Chapter 6, Thousands of Ideas. So last we were together, we saw that the painting was on fire and his idea didn't quite pan out the way that he had wanted. So Leonardo was not too happy. Let's see what happens next. A low fire burned in the hearth. Sunlight slanted across the warm room. Jack caught his breath as he looked around Leonardo's studio. There were mirrors, wooden trunks, globes, paint pots, and brushes. Sketches, paintings, and handmade maps were all over the walls. There were stacks of old books, half-built furniture, piled up papers, theater masks, pieces of costumes, and musical instruments. "Oh, man," murmured Jack. "I love this room." "Me too," said Annie. "Please, sit at my table. Let me get you something to eat," said Leonardo. He pushed a bunch of things to the side of a long wooden table and pulled up 2 chairs. "Thanks," said Jack. He and Annie sat down. Leonardo took the cheese and bread from the basket by the door and gave some to Jack and Annie. The cheese was dry, but tasted good. And the bread was really delicious. Hard and crackly on the outside, but soft and chewy on the inside. I wonder how they make it like this," Jack thought. "So why do you want to leave Florence, Leonardo?" Annie asked, her mouth full. "Because I will no longer be respected here," said Leonardo. "Last week the council told me I must finish my fresco soon, and now I will not finish it at all. Just recently, Michelangelo accused me of never finishing anything." "Michelangelo? The great artist?" said Jack. Leonardo snorted. "You think Michelangelo is a great artist? Have you seen his statues? Those men with their big muscles. They look like sacks of walnuts." Jack and Annie laughed. Leonardo tried to hide a smile as he looked at them. "In truth, Michelangelo is a great artist," he said. "Still, he should not accuse me of never finishing anything, even if it is true." "Why don't you finish things?" asked Annie. "Well, I shall not finish my battle scene now because I experimented with my paint," said Leonardo. "I'm experimenting all the time, and often my experiments lead nowhere." "So is that your main problem?" asked Annie. "One of them," Leonardo said, sighing. "The other is that there are too many things I want to do, and there's never enough time." "What else do you want to do?" asked Jack. "Oh, I have thousands of ideas," said Leonardo. He put down his bread and cheese and crossed to a wooden trunk in the corner of his studio. He raised the lid of his trunk and stared for a moment at its contents. Leonardo turned back to Jack and Annie. His eyes were bright again. Whatever was in the trunk made him happier. "Come look," he said. Jack and Annie walked over to the trunk and peered inside. It held dozens and dozens of plain black books, large ones and small ones. "Notebooks," said Leonardo. "I have filled over 100 of them with my ideas." "Oh," said Jack, his eyes wide. "Jack keeps notebooks too," said Annie. "Do you mind if we look at them?" asked Jack. "No, not at all," said Leonardo. Jack and Annie started picking up the notebooks and turning the pages. The pages were crammed with doodles and writings. They showed sketches of people's faces, animal heads, flowers, trees, rivers, mountains, the sun, and the moon. One notebook was filled with drawings of horses. Another had sketches of bridges and buildings. Another had drawings of birds and machines. Many of the drawings in the notebooks had labels written in a strange language. "You cannot read my notes, can you?" said Leonardo. Jack and Annie shook their heads. "Hold them to a mirror," said Leonardo. Jack and Annie stood in front of a wall mirror. What do you think happens when they stand in front of the mirror? Maybe his secret language is it can only be seen in the mirror. Let's see. Each held up a notebook and looked at its reflection in the mirror. Oh, I get it, said Jack. He could read the words now. Leonardo had written everything backward, from right to left across the page. So the word bird was written as B-R-I-D. B-R-I-D. And the word wind was written as D-N-I-W. Why do you write this way? Asked Annie. People think I'm trying to keep my ideas a secret, said Leonardo. But in truth, I'm left-handed. And when I write normally from left to right, I smear ink across the page. One day I realized that if I wrote backward, I would not be so messy. He laughed and sat down at the table. As he took a bite of bread, he seemed his happy self again. What do you write in these notebooks? Said Jack. Oh, I've written down thousands of ideas, said Leonardo. For example, he opened a notebook and read, fossils of tiny sea creatures have been found in the mountains of Italy. It is my belief that ocean water once covered the mountains millions of years ago. Your belief is right, said Jack. Leonardo looked at Jack with surprise. You seem so certain, he said. Well, I know from science books that the oceans once covered many mountains of the earth, and that's why you can find sea fossils there, said Jack. We read lots of books, said Annie. Indeed, said Leonardo. Then he picked up another notebook and read, if a wolf stares at you, your voice will become hoarse. That's not true, said Annie. It is not? Said Leonardo. Well, think about it, said Annie. How can an animal make a person hoarse? And why would they want to? Leonardo nodded. Yes, I think I agree with you, he said. He cleared his throat. Then he read another idea. A spider hatches its eggs by staring at them. You think that's true? No, said Jack and Annie together. No, said Leonardo. Trust us, said Jack, smiling. This is really fun, he thought. Knowing more than a great genius? Scientists have discovered a lot since Leonardo's time. All right, I don't know why, but I shall trust you, said Leonardo. He turned some pages and read, the moon may be bright because it is made out of rippling water. Jack shook his head. Actually, it's made out of rocks, he said. It's bright because it reflects the light of the sun. Jack knew lots of facts about the moon. And did you know there's no wind on the moon? Said Annie. So someday when people walk there, their footprints will last forever. Leonardo grinned. Wonderful, he said. I fear you are both speaking nonsense, but I like your original thinking. He turned the page and read another entry. There must be a way to use a natural force such as steam or wind to help people do their tasks in less time with less work. That's a great idea, said Jack. Maybe someday steam engines could run ships, or maybe steam could help run a train. A train? Said Leonardo. Yes, a train, said Annie. A train is this thing we've imagined. It's like wagons connected to each other, said Jack. And they run over tracks that go across the land. Interesting, said Leonardo. He closed his eyes as if trying to imagine it. And then there are planes, said Annie. We've imagined these things called planes. Yeah, said Jack. They have wings and they fly you through the air. Like birds, said Annie. Leonardo sat up very straight. You imagine such a flying thing is possible? He asked. We're positive, said Jack. Leonardo leapt to his feet. You have been sent to me as a sign, he said. A sign of what? Said Annie. Leonardo's eyes were gleaming. I too believe humans can fly like birds, and today I shall prove it. You will? Said Jack. Yes, until now I have been fearful of testing my idea, said Leonardo, but the two of you have given me courage. What What is Leonardo talking about? Jack wondered. I'm sure my plan will work now, said Leonardo, and it will bring me everlasting fame. We don't really know that much about flying, Jack said. Yeah, we're just imagining, said Annie. But Leonardo grabbed his cap and cloak. Come with me, friends. He headed out to the courtyard. Jack grabbed his bag, and he and Annie followed. Leonardo jumped into the horse cart and picked up the reins. Climb in, he said. Jack and Annie climbed into the cart and sat beside Leonardo. Today, the great bird shall rise aloft high into the sky, said Leonardo, and the universe shall be filled with wonder. And that's how this chapter ends. Chapter 7 is called The Great Bird. I have a Leonardo book, a Leonardo da Vinci book that Sohail read, I think in the 3rd or 4th grade, that I'll share with you one of these days when I'm recording. But it's a really cool, neat book about Leonardo da Vinci, who was a really neat guy. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that chapter. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I always forget to add that part. So if you have a message for me, or if there's a comment about the chapter, you have a question, you have a connection, please do share and like the videos. And I will see you next time for chapter 7, which is The Great Bird. Have a wonderful night. Sleep well. Sweet dreams. Good night.